Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 2,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Skol Nation, stop. Right now. U.S. Bank Stadium just erupted, and what we're about to break down is going to shake everything you think you know about the Minnesota Vikings 2026 season. In the last 48 hours, 3 separate bombshells hit the league simultaneously. A defensive cornerstone's future hangs by a thread. The wide receiver room just exploded with chaos, and Kyler Murray's personal relationships are reshaping an entire offensive depth chart in real time. This isn't speculation. This isn't gossip. This is the moment that defines whether Minnesota competes for a Super Bowl or squanders the most talented roster in franchise history. Let's set the scene. Jalen Nailor is gone. The Minnesota Vikings slot receiver packed his bags and bolted to Las Vegas on a 3-year, $35 million contract with the Raiders. And suddenly, the receiving core that seemed complete just weeks ago has a gaping hole that Minnesota cannot ignore. Justin Jefferson is your WR1. He's elite. Jordan Addison is your WR2. He's skilled. But after those 2 names, the drop-off is brutal, steep, the kind of cliff that keeps general managers awake at night when they're trying to protect a franchise quarterback's investment. Ty Felton has shown flashes of potential, sure, but he's young, he's inexperienced, and asking him to carry the load in a critical WR3 role while the team has a Super Bowl window cracking open, that's not just a gamble, that's recklessness. Not with Kyler Murray under center, not with this opportunity. So what does Kwesi Mensah do? What does Minnesota's front office do when they've got a hole in the depth chart and limited cap flexibility? This is where the story gets absolutely wild because 3 separate candidates just surfaced at the exact same moment, and each one carries completely different implications for how this offense evolves. The first name has Minnesota reeling, KJ Osborne. Yes, that KJ Osborne. The same receiver who lined up alongside Justin Jefferson for 3 straight seasons. The same guy who ran precise surgical routes in Kevin O'Neal's system and scored 15 touchdowns in a Vikings uniform across 59 games. The same player who logged 2,468 offensive snaps in this exact system with this exact quarterback now running the show in a city that absolutely embraced him, that KJ Osborne. On March 26th, Osborne made an appearance on the Capsoft podcast, and what he said sent shockwaves through Viking Nation. He didn't dance around it. He didn't play it cool or deflect. He opened the door himself on a public platform, and his words matter. You can't help but look at Minnesota. Kyler Murray's going back. Jalen Nailor, I'm so happy for him. Speedy, congrats, bro. My guy, he just got 3 years for $35 million from the Raiders. So that spot is back open, just looking around. But home is where the heart is, so we'll see. Let that sink in for a second. Home is where the heart is. This isn't a player quietly hoping his agent makes a phone call to Wilf's office. This isn't someone working behind the scenes through backdoor channels. This is a man going on a public podcast and publicly campaigning for his job back. This is a 28-year-old receiver who spent 4 seasons in Minnesota, caught 158 passes for 1,945 yards, scored 15 touchdowns, and played alongside one of the most elite receivers in football. He knows this system inside out. He knows the culture. He knows what it takes to win here. And more importantly, he's reminding Minnesota that he's available and willing. But the chaos doesn't stop there. This is where it gets absolutely wild. Because Osborne isn't the only former teammate sending signals to Minneapolis. According to TMZ Sports, DeAndre Hopkins, one of the most accomplished wide receivers of his entire generation, reportedly told the outlet on March 22nd that he would be completely willing to reunite with Kyler Murray in Minnesota. Not just willing, eager. Hopkins said it publicly. Kyler is like family. Whatever I can do for someone like that. If Kyler needed me, if the Vikings need me, they know I'll be there. Think about who DeAndre Hopkins is for a second. During his peak years in Arizona with Kyler Murray, DeHop was arguably the best receiver in professional football. He was an elite route runner, a contested catch machine, the kind of talent that just elevates a quarterback's efficiency by being on the field. Yeah, he's 33 years old now. Yeah, he's not the same player he was at his absolute apex, but his football intelligence is elite. His chemistry with Kyler Murray is something that cannot be manufactured or replicated. His veteran presence in a locker room that just went through a massive quarterback transition would be invaluable. The man knows how to win. He's done it at the highest level. And then there's the third option, which is the trade route. Fan-sided analyst Bundy, reporting on the receiver market, identified Buffalo Bills wide receiver Keon Coleman as an ideal trade target for Minnesota. Coleman is 22 years old. He's got elite physical tools. He's got the kind of upside that makes scouts salivate. But he's also a player who desperately needs a change of scenery, a fresh start, and the right environment to unlock his potential. Minnesota, with Kyler Murray's connections and the organization's offensive system, could absolutely be that environment. So now we're looking at three distinct paths to filling the WR3 hole. Osborne represents the safe, familiar, cost-effective answer. He knows the city, he knows the system, he's proven in this uniform. Hopkins represents the high-ceiling reunion storyline, the chance to reunite the dynasty from Arizona and remind the NFC that you don't mess with Kyler Murray's network. Coleman represents the upside play, the young talent with massive potential just waiting for the right opportunity. Three options, one roster spot, and Kwesi Adop-Mensah has to make a choice that could define the entire season. But here's where the story takes a dark turn, because while the offense is being retrofitted and receivers are knocking on the door, there's a defensive storm brewing on the other side of the ball that could completely derail everything Minnesota is trying to build. Jonathan Greenard, 97 tackles, 15 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, 29 games since joining the Minnesota Vikings in 2024. Those numbers don't just tell a story. They tell the story of a player who has become the literal engine of this defense. He is the heartbeat. He is the disruptive force that changes game plans and forces opposing quarterbacks to move early in their progressions. He is the player that defensive coordinators build schemes around. He is, without question, the most important defensive player on this roster. But here's the uncomfortable truth that Viking Nation has been carefully avoiding. Jonathan Greenard's name has been floating in trade rumors all offseason, and as the NFL draft approaches, that noise is getting louder and louder. After the 2026 season, Greenard will have just 1 year remaining on his contract. That creates a ticking clock. That creates a situation where both the player and the front office are in an incredibly uncomfortable position. Greenard almost certainly wants a new deal, a contract extension, security beyond next season. Minnesota is cap-strapped. The organization has restructured contracts left and right, pulled every available lever, and they're running out of financial flexibility. And reports have already connected the Philadelphia Eagles to Greenard's name in trade speculation. This is a chess match, and every day that passes without resolution is another day closer to a decision that could reshape this entire franchise. Enter Ben Lieber, the former Vikings linebacker who appeared on Kai Fan on March 26th and delivered the most honest, most detailed breakdown of the Greenard situation that anyone has offered. And he started with a prediction that should give Minnesota confidence. I think he stays. And I'm saying that both from my head and from my heart. I truly think that he is such a key part of this defense. But Lieber didn't stop there. He dug deeper, providing context about Greenard's value that every Vikings fan absolutely needs to understand. He plays the run extremely well. He's so disruptive. There are so many times where he's getting to the quarterback and there's just slippage. Those quarterback hurries, the disruption points. If he is able to capitalize next year on some of those drive-bys, all of a sudden now he's an all-pro type of player. An all-pro type of player on a contract that hasn't been extended on a team that's cap-strapped for cash. Let me translate what Lieber just said, because this is crucial. Greenard isn't just a good pass rusher. He's on the verge of becoming one of the most elite defensive players in the entire league. The sacks and forced fumbles are impressive, but the quarterback hurries, the disruption points, the ways he affects plays that don't show up in the box score, that's the real value. That's what makes him dangerous. According to Lieber's estimates, Greenard is looking for somewhere in the range of $4 to $5 million more per year on his next deal. Not a massive number in today's NFL market, but for a team that has already pulled every restructuring lever available, it's significant. It's a problem. It's a knot that's increasingly difficult to untangle. Here's the brutal math that Minnesota cannot escape. Losing Jonathan Greenard without receiving a franchise-altering return would be catastrophic. This isn't losing a backup wide receiver. This isn't a rotating defensive back. This is your most disruptive defensive player. The man who changes game plans. The player who forces quarterbacks to move early. The tone setter for your entire defensive line. Losing him without a massive haul in return would cripple a defense that's supposed to protect Kyler Murray's investment. But Lieber also acknowledged that the trade scenario isn't dead, not by a long shot. If I'm the Vikings from a business standpoint, I'm not going to give him up for just a fourth rounder. That doesn't make any sense. He is a second rounder at least. At least, I don't know, I would even take a third rounder. Meaning if any team, the Eagles, the Browns, anyone in this league wants Jonathan Greenard, they're going to have to pay a premium price, a second-round pick at minimum, possibly more. So Minnesota sits at a crossroads. Do they extend Greenard before the draft, lock him up long-term, and deal with the cap consequences? Or do they hold firm, let the market come to them, and risk losing him to a team willing to offer what he's worth? Both options have massive implications for how this season unfolds. This is the defensive battle happening right now, in real time, with the clock ticking. But it's not the only front that Kwesi Adofmensah is fighting, because while the defense is in contract limbo and the receivers are circling Minneapolis, there's a quarterback reunion narrative that could completely reshape the entire identity of this offense. When the Vikings acquired Kyler Murray to be the franchise quarterback for 2026, they didn't just get a dual-threat passer who can make plays with his arm and his legs. They imported an entire network, connections, relationships forged over years in the Arizona desert. They brought in a quarterback with pull, with influence, with players around the league who know him, respect him, and would follow him into battle. And now the most high-profile of those relationships is sending crystal-clear signals straight to Minneapolis. The DeAndre Hopkins revelation is bigger than just another veteran receiver looking for work. Hopkins is a player with championship DNA. He's won playoff games at the highest level. He's caught passes in crunch time when it matters most. More importantly, he's got something that you absolutely cannot manufacture. Chemistry with Kyler Murray that's been forged over years of competition, building plays together, learning each other's tendencies. That chemistry is real. That chemistry matters. That chemistry could be the difference between a playoff team and a team that competes for a conference championship. And when Hopkins says Kyler is like family, he's not speaking casually. He's not throwing out a generic quote. He's sending a message to Minnesota that if this opportunity presents itself, he's ready, he's willing, he's interested. Then there's KJ Osborne, who, as we've established, is publicly campaigning for his old job back. 28 years old, knows the system inside out, knows the city that embraced him, knows what it takes to win in Kevin O'Neill's scheme. He's the safe, familiar, cost-effective answer that doesn't require Minnesota to gamble on youth or bet heavily on chemistry that was forged in a different system. Behind both of them sits the Keon Coleman trade possibility, a 22-year-old with elite physical tools who just needs the right environment to unlock his massive potential. Minnesota, with Kyler Murray's experience and Kevin O'Neill's offensive creativity, could absolutely be that environment. Coleman could be the long-term answer, the player who grows into a top-5 receiver in this league if given the right opportunity. 3 paths, 1 roster spot. And the decision that Kwesi makes in the next few weeks could define whether this offensive unit becomes one of the most dynamic in football or whether it remains competent but incomplete. Here's what it really comes down to. With Kyler Murray now leading this offense, the WR3 position isn't just a depth piece. It's not a luxury, it's a weapon. It's a critical component of the offensive ecosystem. The right player in that role could be the difference between a first-round exit and a deep playoff run, the difference between a forgettable season and one that Minnesota remembers for decades. The decision matters that much. Do you want Osborne back in purple, the homecoming story, the familiar face, the known commodity? Or do you prefer DeAndre Hopkins, the high-ceiling reunion, the veteran who's won championships and proven he can elevate a quarterback's game at the highest level? Or are you the dreamer who wants to see Keon Coleman get that fresh start, that clean slate in Minnesota where he can develop into a Pro Bowl receiver? Drop your answer in the comments right now. Let Viking Nation vote. Let your voice be heard, because this decision belongs to the fans as much as it does to the front office. But we can't overlook the elephant in the room. While Minnesota is building its offense and trying to add weapons around Kyler Murray, there's a ticking clock on the defense. Jonathan Greenard has not been extended. The draft is approaching. A second-round pick is reportedly the minimum asking price. That means any team with a top pick and cap space could make that call tonight. If Greenard walks, if he gets traded away in exchange for draft compensation, who becomes this defense's identity? Who becomes the pass rush engine that forces opposing quarterbacks out of their comfort zone? That answer drops in the next video, and it's not a pretty one. And here's the rumor that should have every Vikings fan on the edge of their seat right now. According to sources inside the league, the Vikings front office has quietly reached out to one of the three WR3 candidates already, not publicly, not through the media, not through official announcements, quietly, behind closed doors, through back channels. Which one got the call? Which direction is Minnesota leaning? That information is the real treasure because it tells us what this front office actually believes, what direction they're moving, what vision they have for how this offense evolves. Let me summarize what we're looking at. The Minnesota Vikings are building something special around Kyler Murray, something that could legitimately compete for a Super Bowl if everything breaks right. But the next few weeks will define whether this offseason is remembered as the moment the NFC North truly shifted, the moment when Minnesota took control of the division, or the moment when they left points on the board, the moment when they made the wrong choice. The WR3 race is real. KJ Osborne is knocking on the door with his "home is where the heart is" message. DeAndre Hopkins is raising his hand with his willingness to reunite with Kyler Murray. Keon Coleman is waiting in Buffalo, ready for a call that could change his entire career trajectory. The decision Minnesota makes will ripple through the entire offensive ecosystem. Meanwhile, Jonathan Greenard sits in contract limbo, 15 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, the heartbeat of this defense, while teams circle like vultures waiting for Minnesota to blink, waiting for the Vikings to decide whether they're committed to paying their most disruptive defender or whether they're willing to let him walk for draft compensation. This front office cannot afford to lose both battles. Lock up the defense, fix the receiver room, give Kyler Murray the weapons he needs, because the NFC North is not waiting. Detroit is hungry. Green Bay is loading up. Chicago is rebuilding faster than anyone expected. The window is open right now. It's wide open, and every day without a decision is a day closer to watching a rival make the move that Minnesota should have made first. So here's what Viking Nation needs to do right now. First, if you believe the Vikings are one move away from being the most dangerous team in the entire NFC, smash that like button. Let the algorithm know. Make the videos that break down Minnesota's roster visible to everyone in the league. Second, drop a comment with your WR3 pick. Hopkins, Osborne, Coleman. Tell me why. Make an argument. Start a conversation. Defend your choice. Third, subscribe right now. Every single subscriber makes Packers fans furious, and we are about to own this division. We are about to dominate the NFC North. We ride together, we win together. But here's the edge of the cliff that should keep you up at night. Jonathan Greenard has not been extended. The draft is days away. A second-round pick is reportedly the minimum asking price. That means a team with a top 10 pick and the cap space to make it work could call Minnesota tonight. Tonight. Not next week, not after the draft. Tonight. If Greenard walks, if he gets traded away, who becomes this defense's identity? What's the long-term outlook for a secondary that suddenly has to do more with less? Those answers matter. Those answers determine the trajectory of this franchise. And on top of that, there's the rumor sourced from inside the league that the Vikings front office has quietly reached out to one of the three WR3 candidates already. Not publicly, not through the media, quietly. Which one got the call? Is Minnesota leaning toward the familiar comfort of Osborne, the high ceiling potential of Hopkins, or the long-term upside of Coleman? The answer to that question tells us everything we need to know about how this front office sees the next 3 to 5 years. Skol Nation, the battle is here. The moment is now. This is the biggest off-season of the Kyler Murray era. Subscribe, stay locked. Follow us. Let's make the NFC North bleed purple. We ride together. See you in the next war.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 2,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.